Hello, welcome back to my garden. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody who's subscribed recently. We have a bunch of new subscribers to the channel. Thank you very much. We're on our way to 1,000, which is weird. So if you're seeing this in the future and I'm already at like 2,000 or 5,000, probably not that high, but you never know. Yeah, this video is made before we hit 1,000 viewers, so subscribers, I should say. So thank you very much to all you new subscribers. As I always say, I'm grateful for all of you simply for the reason that I'm not standing here talking to myself, which would be really, really weird. So today, I've opened up the in-ground bed. Now I saved you the pain of doing that like video montage thing where I show myself in fast motion, pulling up all the weed fabric and moving all the bricks and the stones. Saved you from all that pain. Not doing that today. So I'm going to show you what the bed looks like now, what I'm going to be doing to the bed, and then what I'm going to be planting today. That's where I'm going to start planting today because we're already at the freaking end of April. Last frost was back in March sometime. I should have had this bed opened up already, but I've been concentrating so much on the flower garden and planting out all the seedlings that were in the greenhouse, and there's still a few things in there, and all the stuff that I have on the potting bench, and I still have to do all of that. Plus, again, if you're new to the channel, maybe you haven't seen, I have this new section of the flower garden that I've been planting up, and I'm making headway on that. I still have more work to do. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. This way you can follow along with my antics, whether it's here in the vegetable garden, in the flower garden, in the rose garden, which I have something new to plant out there. So that's going to be coming up soon. So again, haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss me planting out that new plant that I've gotten for the rose garden. And let me stop prattling now and show you what's happening over in the in-ground bed. So last year I made a major change. Actually, it was the year prior. At the very end of that year, I made a major change where I covered this entire area with weed fabric. Prior to that, I had four foot by roughly, let's say 20 foot or 10, whatever they were. They were narrow, long beds, and I had grass all around them, and mowing it was quite tedious and cumbersome. Things like the pumpkin vine and the watermelon vine would spill out into the grass paths, and it was just a pain. So I made the decision, and I think it was the end of 2022, 2023. I don't, where are we now? I have no idea. I think it was the end of 2022. Covered the whole area with weed fabric and killed back all of the grass areas. And then I came in and I covered the entire area with cardboard. And on top of that, I put down compost and all sorts of other good stuff right on top of that, using the no-dig method that I've talked about so many other times before. And it worked out very well. And so last year was, I believe, the first year that I was growing in this space. It was very good. There was a lot of good plants in here. Things like the pumpkin or watermelon spilling over into where is it going to spill over to? It's in the bed. The one thing I did do, and I'll show you this in a close-up in a minute, was I created pathways using a lot of the extra wood chips that I had left over from when I first moved in. It worked out well. I had these defined pathways that I could walk through, and again, I'll show you all this in a second. And I created these little bed sections that I could walk around, and I could plant various things in various bed sections. Well, we're going to continue that this year. Going to make some changes, and I'm going to continue to sort of do the no dig. And again, I'll explain all that in a second. So let me stop prattling and show you what we're going to do. All right, so there's the greenhouse. Here's the front side. So there's a sickly rose in that pot, and over in this pot over here, I have a sour gum young tree. It's growing up. This is a sweet bay magnolia that I got as bare root, and I thought it died, but then it started pushing up this new growth. So we're going to leave it in the pot for this year. And then all along here, you notice I have various, well, these are magnolias, that's another story, and that's a canna, that's another story, but I have these grow bags. And in all these grow bags, and that pot, I have potatoes. So I've got all my potatoes planted up now, and I think, here's one that's already pushing up. So hopefully we get a nice good harvest this year. Now you may be able to see here rotted down a lot are the wood chips from last year. Now they're just regular pine wood chips from all the pine trees that were taken down, but that's an example of a walkway. And then I had this bed here planted out with corn. And the corn did pretty good, not bad. And then the wood chips went right back to the line, right back to the edge of the garden there. Why, I don't know. And then I have a roughly 2 foot wide growing area right over here with a little path next to it. And then we come to this section here where I have Liantris, am I pronouncing that correctly? Liantris, and believe it or not, there's some alliums over here. This is Purple Sensation. They don't look so great, but they're there, they're growing. Over here is my comfrey. If you've never grown comfrey before, give it a whirl. Make sure you get yourself the Russian variant, because comfrey is basically a weed, and the Russian variant won't spread. It only spreads through root cuttings, so it won't spread through seed or any other means. But you could take all these leaves, you can use it for all sorts of purposes. I think medicinal. I use it for make compost tea and to add nitrogen to the soil or to the ground, because the leaves basically, it's a sciencey thing. But Google comfrey, C-O-M-F-R-E-Y. Google that, and it's a great little plant there. And there's no bees there yet, but the bees love the flowers. Over on this side, this is where I put all of my daylilies that I had remaining. This is where they basically stay, trying to keep out of reach of the deer. The entire area is lined with just 1 foot pavers, and these aren't cemented in or put in anywhere. I just put them on top of the ground, and it just give me a nice little mowing edge. By the way, check out the hibiscus. I thought it was dead. It's pushing up new growth. Anyways, so, and here's my orange tree in a pot. It's looking good. And yeah, it gives me a nice, easy edge to mow around. A lot of that soil doesn't look so hot. There's a lot of waste debris in there. But believe it or not, I already did some digging in there. There's a lot of worms in there. A lot of worms. So I'm going to show you now what we're going to do to rejuvenate that a bit and give us something nice to plant into this year. I do want to make various changes to this area, and I will show you some of those changes in a minute. But this strip right here, which is approximately 4 foot wide, and it goes all the way back. By the way, the depth of the in-ground bed is 14 feet. This row right here is roughly 12 feet, let's say, because I have the comfrey in the back. This bed right here last year I had chilies in. Now I may wind up doing chilies and peppers again, don't know. I have a pepper plant here which I had overwintered in the greenhouse, and it's still alive, which is fabulous. So I'm gonna pop that back in the ground. Not today though, but let me show you what we're gonna do first. Is you may have noticed there's a couple of bags here. First, I have this bag of cedar mulch, and I'm gonna show you that in a second. And second, I have this bag of Daddy Pete's Kickin' Chicken. I've mentioned Daddy Pete's before. They're a local company here in North Carolina. They produce all sorts of raised bed mix. They produce potting soil mix. They produce, in this case, a fertilizer. And all this is composted chicken manure and cow manure. So it's done being hot, basically. Now, I'm not going to pour this whole bag onto this space, but what I am going to do is just add a little bit to this area, and I'm just going to rake it in. I'm not going to till this in. It's all part of the whole no dig thing. You don't want to disturb what's already beneath there, because there could be all sorts of worms and bugs and all sorts of other good stuff. Like I said, I've already done a little bit of digging in the beds here just to sort of see what's going on, and there's lots of worms down there. One of the things I did last year with these beds was I used grass clippings, which adds nitrogen back into the soil. So that's a plus. Right now I'm putting down the Kickin' Chicken. That's another plus. Yeah, this looks really good now. So I left it alone over the winter, as you saw. I had the weed cloth over the whole area, and that prevents weeds from coming in. This one little strip here is done. Now I'm gonna plant into this today. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try planting a couple of peanuts. If you watch my previous videos, I did an entire raised bed of peanuts, and I did it badly because I didn't shell half the peanuts. By the way, there are peanuts coming up. They're probably from ones that have already shelled. But I'm gonna try some peanuts in the ground here because I had a lot left over. I've grabbed a couple of shells here and I'm just gonna try a few plants in here and we're gonna see what happens. I'm just taking my finger, making a hole because the ground isn't compacted, which is nice. So let me make some labels up for that. All right, I went and made a label. So we're just gonna stick this over here just to sort of denote where I have the peanuts. I'm gonna plant something else in this bed right now, is cotton. Now last year, I planted cotton out in the flower beds and it started to grow, which was fabulous, but then the deer came along, ate cotton. Who knew deer ate cotton? So I'm gonna try to plant some cotton seeds here in the veg garden and maybe they'll have better luck. How deep does this have to be? 1/2 inch. And we'll put a label there. There we go. And now the front part of this bed will be for peppers or chilies or something else. I'll plant at a later date and time. Now I'm planting the cotton not for cotton production, but just for fun. Seeds are, if you've never grown something before that you'd like to grow, or you've seen something odd like cotton, seeds are cheap. I think this cost me like $2 or $3. It's kind of a neat thing. Farmers around here, I'm on the eastern North Carolina, so farmers around here will grow cotton sometimes, and depending upon the year and the way the wind blows, the roads can be just covered with little cotton balls. It's pretty neat. Now I mentioned the mulch a second ago. I cover the walkways. Just a thin coat to help denote, just a thin layer, just to help denote where the walkway is. And I've heard that cedar will help repel ants, which if you didn't know, I have fire ants down here. So anything I could do to help repel the ants. Like I said, I'm just doing a thin layer to help denote the walkways. So there we go. There's one pathway. It doesn't have to be very big. It doesn't have to be very fancy. I just need some place to walk where I know I'm not stepping on plants. And again, if it helps, if it gives the added bonus of repelling ants, all the better. Now, once these plants start coming up, or even before if I so wish and desire, put a thin layer of grass clippings right on top to act as a mulch to help the ground retain moisture, which I'll probably wind up doing either sooner or later, but definitely before the heat of the summer. I've recently just watched a video by, I think it's called Crock Gardener. I'll leave the thing here on the screen. I have a terrible memory because I'm old, and he was lining his pathways in his vegetable garden with wood chips. If you jump over to his channel and check out that video, you can see what he did. And he's actually has a pretty nice layout for his vegetable garden with various raised beds made out of landscaping timbers. So go check out his channel if you haven't. Let me show you what we're doing at the other end. Now, I think I mentioned last year that this space was probably going to continue to evolve. If I didn't, I'm mentioning it now. One of the things I found though last year is that I had the corn going from the edge right there with the shrubbery out to the edge over here, creating sort of a wall. And that was nice. But if I was here, there's a couple of problems. One, I can't walk over that way. I have to walk around. Not the end of the world. And the other one, I have this weird space right here that's doing nothing. And I think I need it to be doing something. So one of the things I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my hoe here and pull some of this soil over to fill this space, because I want this whole back row here of the vegetable garden to be sunflowers this year. We're going mad with sunflowers. I have collected a lot of sunflower seeds over the years. A lot. I have 10 to 15 different varieties, if not more. I've lost track. And I'm going to be planting up a lot of sunflowers this year. All right, so it looks pretty good. So now I'll have a pathway that I can walk straight out towards this gate with. And I'll cover this up in a second with the wood chips. And again, just to define it, I don't need to, it's just sort of to define the space that I'm working in. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the bed down there. I'm going to add a little bit of kickin' chicken just to help boost the soil a little bit. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll add a little bit of kickin' chicken, and then I'll start planting some sunflowers, and I'll tell you what we're going to be planting first. Now, a quick word on the cedar mulch here that I'm using. One of you, I can't remember which one it was, so please forgive me. I think it was last year, made the suggestion of using like cedar shavings that you would use, like let's say in a horse stable or someplace else where I guess you have animals, that they had used it in their garden pathways. And I looked at some of the offers online in different stores, and I couldn't quite didn't see the quantities that I would have liked maybe to get. And so then I got to thinking, doesn't Lowe's have like some sort of cedar mulch? And lo and behold, they did. So I don't think it matters whether it's a shaving or a mulch. Now over in this bed here, I just gave it the Kickin' Chicken treatment. So I added some Kickin' Chicken. I did some light raking. The raking I did, again, trying to stick with the no dig thing, was surface. So I'm not digging into the ground, but even just a little bit in the surface that I've scratched, I've run across lots of earthworms, which is a very good sign. It means the soil is good and healthy, I think, right? Let me know your thoughts and comments below. So the first seeds, you know what? Before we even start planting seeds, let me make up some labels. Alrighty, so I made up some labels, and the first variety of sunflower I'm going to plant over into this section here is Midnight Rouge. If I'm not mistaken, Midnight Rouge only gets like 4 to 5 feet. If I'm wrong, I'll put a thing on the screen here. And if I'm not mistaken, these seeds are a few years old, but that's okay. We see what happens. I really shouldn't be doing this without gloves because I see ants running around the bed, and sooner or later, I'm gonna get bit by a fire ant. Oh, there's a whole nest of ants right over here, which we're gonna ignore. We're just gonna move aside. Hopefully most, if not all of these, wind up coming up. So that's done, and that was the Midnight Rouge, so I'm gonna stick a label in the ground just to sort of remind me. The next one we're gonna do is Pike's Peak. Let's see how many seeds I have here. I got quite a few. Pike's Peak gets a 14-inch head and can grow up to 15 feet tall. So we're gonna see if that actually happens here. Now I'm only gonna do the Pike's Peak here, just a little bit for now. We'll see what comes up. I think I planted 4 to 6 over here. If they come up, great. So my plan is to start sowing the seeds today, which obviously I'm doing, and then come back in a week and sow another batch. And a week after that, and another batch, and a week after that, another batch. And this way I continuously have sunflowers coming into bloom, theoretically, hypothetically. This is what I'm going with. If you've ever done anything like this before, please leave a comment below. If you think I'm nuts and I'm doing this all wrong, please leave a comment below. There's one more I want to plant, and that's going to be back here. The last one that I'm going to plant up today is Mammoth Gray Stripe. And I've grown this before. Yeah, 12-foot tall stalks. So the Pike's Peak can get up to 15 feet, and we'll see if that actually happens. And the Mammoth Gray can get up to 12 feet tall. Again, we'll see if that happens. There are not a lot of seeds in this package. That's okay. You know what? I think I'm going to stop there. I could go further, but I think this is where I'm going to stop here. So we got about 8 seeds planted. We'll see what comes up. And if I want or if I need, I can come back and add more seeds. Again, I have a lot. This is just the tip of the iceberg so far as sunflower seeds. So my goal this year is to try to burn through all of my sunflower seeds. So as you can see, I still have a lot to go, which I'm not going to bore you with today. But I will bring you along as I plant up various plants here in the garden. This year, I want to put my tomato plants here in the ground. I've never done that before. I've always grown them in the lower wooden raised beds. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but it's something I've never done before, so it's a new experience for me. I'll also be planting basil along with it and some marigolds, I think. I'll be creating new rows. There'll be more sunflowers going along the back row here in the upcoming weeks. Like I said, I'm going to try to do a continuous seeding. And while all this was going on, Sophie here was supervising from the sidelines, or the shade. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video, because there is still so much more coming up. I still have a lot of flowers to be planting out into the flower garden. I think we're pretty much done with the front of the house beds. So I think the focus is strictly going to be planting the flowers out in the new flower borders. So there'll be all that coming up. I have a lot of shrubs to be planting out, and we're going to create a hedge row out in the orchard. Something I've never done before, and I will show you what we're going to be planting when we get to that point and why. More, like I said, going into the ground. There's tomatoes and pumpkins and peppers and all sorts of stuff. If you don't follow me over on Instagram, give a follow on Instagram, because I often post up pictures there that you may not see here on YouTube. And so sometimes I just walk around the garden in the mornings or in the evenings, and I see something really neat, and I take a picture of it, and I'll post it up on Instagram. Sometimes it's pictures of Sophie here. If you don't want to sign up for another social media, go over to growinggreenfinger.com and just scroll to the bottom of the home page, or any of the pages really, and you'll see all my Instagram photos reflected there. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Again, if you guys have any questions, comments, etc., please, this is not a how-to, this is just how I'm doing it. If you guys are doing something similar or different, please leave those comments below, let me know, and let's hope all of our crops come out pretty awesome this year. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.